Once upon a time, in a village nestled between rolling hills and whispering trees, there lived a young woman named Ilara. Ilara was known for her radiant smile and her heart as warm as the summer sun. She was the kind of person who could light up a room with her presence, and the villagers adored her. But fate had a cruel twist in store for her. One fateful evening, while walking home from the market, Ilara stumbled upon a sight that would forever change her life. Hidden amongst the gnarled branches of an ancient oak tree was a small wooden box. Curiosity sparked within her. She carefully opened the box, and what she found inside was not just extraordinary, but utterly terrifying. The box contained a single, perfectly preserved human eye. Its iris was a swirling vortex of emerald green, and its pupil, a bottomless pit of darkness. It was as if the eye itself was a gateway to the darkest depths of hell. Fear pulsed through Ilara's veins, yet she couldn't bring herself to look away. As she gazed into the eye, she felt an unsettling pull, like some invisible force was reaching out trying to drag her into its own abyss. But it wasn't just a physical attraction. There was something more, something sinister that stirred within her, a dark echo of her own curiosity. And before she knew it, Ilara found herself inexplicably drawn to the eye. She felt a strange sense of ownership over it, as though its existence was now intrinsically linked to hers. Torn between her terror and fascination, Ilara decided to keep the eye. She buried it deep within her home, hoping to forget its existence. But the eye seemed to have a will of its own. It whispered to her in the dead of night, its voice a slithering hiss that promised forbidden knowledge and untold power. And as the days turned into weeks, Ilara found herself succumbing to its dark allure. She began to experience strange symptoms, a fever that burned away her sanity, skin that grew cold and clammy, and eyes that mirrored the swirling green of the cursed artifact. Her reflection in the mirror became a stranger, her face pale and gaunt, her eyes hollowed sockets of endless night. The whispers of the eye grew louder, weaving tales of unimaginable horrors and tempting her with promises of ultimate power. One day, unable to resist the eye's beckoning any longer, Ilara dug it up and held it close. The moment their gazes met, her world shattered. Images flooded her mind, visions of unspeakable acts committed by her very own family, secrets buried deep within their past. And then she saw it. A truth so horrifying it threatened to consume her whole. Her parents, her beloved parents, were not the kind, gentle people she had always known them to be. No, they were vile, their hearts black as coal, their souls stained with sins beyond redemption. The revelations kept coming, twisting and turning, each one more disturbing than the last. Betrayal, murder, and finally, the ultimate betrayal. Her parents had orchestrated the death of her brother, all for power and wealth. And she, the unwitting pawn in their twisted game, overwhelmed with a mixture of disgust, grief, and rage, Ilara stumbled back, the eye slipping from her grasp. It fell to the ground with a dull thud, and in that instant the whispers ceased. The connection that had bound her to it snapped, leaving behind an echoing silence that was more deafening than any scream. The eye, once brimming with malevolent energy, was now dull and lifeless, its vibrant green replaced by a murky brown. The power it had wielded over Ilara, the insidious way it had wormed its way into her thoughts and emotions, all of it gone as quickly as it had come. Left in the wake of this sudden silence was a young woman teetering on the edge of a mental breakdown. The whispers had promised power, but what good was power when all it brought was this crushing realization, this unbearable truth? Ilara's life had been shattered, and she was left with nothing but fragments of a past that no longer felt like her own. Her parents, her brother, even her own self, all of it had been tainted by the revelations brought forth by the cursed eye. But amidst the ruins of her shattered life, a tiny ember of defiance still flickered within her. She would not let her brother's death be in vain. She would seek justice, even if it meant tearing down the very foundations of her world. With newfound determination burning in her eyes, Ilara started her investigation. First, she needed proof, hard evidence of her parents' treachery. She began by searching her brother's room, hoping to find anything that might shed light on his death. Among his belongings, she discovered a hidden stash of letters, their contents hinting at a secret life her brother had been leading. These letters, written in a language Ilara couldn't understand, were filled with coded messages and cryptic symbols. It was as if her brother had known the darkness that lurked beneath her parents' seemingly kind faces and had been preparing for it. Determined to decipher these cryptic messages, Ilara sought out a local scholar, an old, eccentric man rumored to know many ancient and arcane things. The scholar, intrigued by the enigma of the letters, agreed to help. After days of poring over ancient texts and linguistic studies, the scholar finally managed to break the code. And when Ilara read the translated letters, her blood ran cold. They detailed her parents' nefarious plot, confirming her worst fears. Her parents had indeed orchestrated her brother's death, driven by a lust for power and wealth. Armed with this irrefutable proof, Ilara confronted her parents. The facade they had so carefully constructed crumbled, revealing the monstrous figures that lay beneath. The once revered pillars of the community were exposed as vile, treacherous monsters. In the face of this revelation, the villagers turned against them, their fury boiling over. The whispers of the eye had been true. All along, Ilara had been right to distrust her parents, but unfortunately, her brother hadn't been so lucky. As the villagers prepared to mete out their own brand of justice, Ilara realized she couldn't let them do it. Despite the pain and betrayal she had suffered, she didn't want her brother's death to also become a stain on her soul. With a heavy heart, she stepped forward, taking responsibility for her parents' actions. She told the villagers that she understood their anger, their desire for vengeance, but that it wouldn't bring her brother back. Instead, she proposed a different path, one that held out the promise of justice without succumbing to the darkness. Her words hung in the air, challenging the villagers' blind rage with a call for reason and restraint. In that charged atmosphere, they agreed to listen, to give reason a chance. A trial was swiftly organized. Every villager was present, their faces grim, their eyes hard with barely contained fury. Ilara's parents, stripped of their false respectability, stood before them, their true colors, their selfishness and callousness, on full display. Ilara presented the evidence, the letters, the hidden documents, and most damning of all, the testimony of their own servants who had been privy to the plot and horrified enough to confess. The trial lasted only a few hours, the evidence against them too strong to refute. When the verdict was delivered, guilty, there was no dissent. Justice had been swift and sure, but what form would that justice take? Ilara again stepped forward, her voice ringing with quiet strength. She demanded not a harsh, vengeful punishment, but one that would ensure her parents never forgot what they had done. She wanted them to live, but to live stripped of their status, their wealth, and most importantly, their freedom. And so it was that the once prominent couple, the pillars of the community, were banished from the village, stripped of their possessions and cast out to fend for themselves. As they were led away, their faces etched with shame and defeat, Ilara felt a mix of emotions, a strange sense of closure, a twinge of pity, and yet no satisfaction. She had won, but at what cost? Looking around at the somber faces of the villagers, she knew that while justice had been served, the scars of betrayal and loss would remain. The eye had brought nothing but pain and ruin. Yet as she watched it being carried away for burial, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. It was an object steeped in such profound darkness, yet it had also shown her the strength that lay dormant within her. It had forced her to confront the deepest, darkest secrets of her world, and in doing so, had inadvertently set her on a path to justice. In the aftermath, Ilara threw herself into helping rebuild the community, working tirelessly to heal the rifts that had been torn open and to bring the village back together. She didn't forget the lessons learned, the betrayals, the deceptions, the strength she had found within herself. And as years passed and the memory of the curse began to fade, she knew she would carry those lessons with her for the rest of her life.